genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the Ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. And of course, we're all a little mad here. So, Kevin Mosteller, is the original Mad Max a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It has not been remade, and I think it's one that should be. I think this one falls into a will be. I don't know if should be. Well, that's fair. Yeah, it probably will be, and it's been sequelized to death, but
sure,
you know.
Well, that's the interesting thing about it, is because we watched the original, which I'd never seen before. I'd only ever seen Fury Road, and then I watched this original, and there's a couple of seeds of where it's going towards Fury Road, but it is largely not even Mad Maxified yet.
No, it's not. It's society is still a thing that is functioning in this one. The Mad Max world that becomes Fury Road later on actually starts in the sequel, which is The Road Warrior.
Makes sense.
Which is the one I saw first. And when I finally was like, oh, this is actually Mad Max 2, and went and rented the original Mad Max, it was like, how are those two related?
Oh man, you know Mad Max, the scene where we get introduced to a character as he's sitting in a cafe, sipping water and having a lovely time.
Yes, without any sandstorms to speak of.
None whatsoever. So, do all the movies take place in Australia?
Yes, they do. They're all supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic Australia.
Interesting.
So the first one, this one that we watched, is supposed to be like society failing. Society, we've had some sort of apocalyptic event happen, and this is the last of it, and we're kind of clinging to it.
Got it.
The Road Warrior is just all out chaos, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, we don't talk about other than Tina Turner's shoulder pads.
I do like chanting Thunderdome.
Oh yeah, that's pretty fun. Yeah. Two men enter, one man leave.
Exactly. Like that. I mean, if we were remaking that movie, that would be the quote.
Yes, it would be.
Absolutely. It would be 2 men enter, 1 podcast leaves. But I digress. Kevin, welcome back to the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
For people who haven't listened to your many Ideal Remakes before, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Kevin, and I am from Los Angeles.
Ooh.
I am a film and television composer. And I love movies. I just love cinema, and which is why I've been back so many times.
It's true. And you are a fantastic guest. I love having you on here, especially because you make me watch movies that are things that I should have watched a long time ago. Like, I was literally at a game night the other day, and I was like, well, I'd never seen the original Mad Max. And someone genuinely did the thing of, you'd never seen Mad Max? I'm like, man, I am 15 to 20 years younger than you. I actually don't think I'm that much younger than him, but like, come on, man. Whatever. This movie's from 1979.
Exactly. And, it kind of, it found its audience in America in the video store generation. And then it kind of, the sequel that was made is kind of what everybody knows about. The one with Tom Hardy. And I guess The Road Warrior as well is more popular.
I mean, they've done spoofs and like characterizations of Mad Max. It's one of those things that just exists in popular culture of like, oh, one of those crazy Mad Max cars just covered in spikes and whatever crazy mishigas that people can find.
Exactly.
And then like when Fury Road came out and it just super leaned into that and did that to the nth degree. And you're just like, wow, this is from the Happy Feet guy?
Exactly, yeah. Happy Feet and Babe Pig in the City.
And Babe Pig in the City.
Don't forget Babe Pig in the City.
How could anyone ever forget Babe Pig in the City? So how did you first see Mad Max?
I saw The Road Warrior first.
Right.
And there used to be this magazine called Starlog. And it was kind of, it was in the same family as the magazine Fangoria. And it was like the internet before the internet.
Sure.
If you liked science fiction and B-movies. And I found this old copy of Starlog from probably the early 80s, I don't know. It featured The Road Warrior, and they started mentioning it, or calling it, as Mad Max 2. And I was like, what the? Okay. And lo and behold, there was a Mad Max 1.
Sure, but how did you first see Mad Max 2? Like, I was expecting you to say, oh, Fangoria mentioned this movie, and I decided to check it out.
No, I actually, that one I found it was like a midnight on Channel 5 is what they used to do in LA on KTLA.
People used to own televisions, and in those days,
there was a television station called KTLA, which I believe still exists in some form, and they would do movies till dawn, which would start at like 3 in the morning and end at 5 in the morning. And when you were a kid who couldn't sleep, you would watch movies till dawn, and that is how I saw The Road Warrior.
Wow.
Once I discovered there was I guess a first movie, not a prequel, a first movie, I hunted it down in the video store, and because this is the best of Ozploitation, if you will, it really is the best of Ozploitation. But the original American version of this film was dubbed badly.
Really?
And it was like, Mel Gibson sounded like he was a radio DJ, like Rick Dees or something. He had a very American voice.
I would have never thought of dubbing over an Australian accent, because the accents aren't particularly heavy in this.
They aren't really. There are a few where it's like, what did he say? Because the slang doesn't translate.
Yeah. But
yeah, it was dubbed, because I guess it was a...
Well, you got to be careful about that Benno. He's just a boy. It's not that bad. And
it turned into something like this, where you can't go out into the meadow. He is just a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious to me.
That was my first intro to the original Mad Max.
Okay.
These are really bad dubs, and it's Mel Gibson.
Yeah, seriously. So when I was looking up stuff for this movie, speaking of the characters, he's just a boy, whatever that guy's name was, Boffo or Benno or whatever.
Right.
And apparently he's not just in the original movie. He's in some of the ones that he's all Mad Maxed up, and he's just an adult in those movies.
Yes. Yeah, there are a few that translated as well. I guess the villain, the toe cutter in this one is also I can't remember his name, Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road.
Really?
Yep. That was his last role before he passed away.
So literally the guy who was the villain in the first Mad Max is the villain in Mad Max Fury Road?
Yes.
That's incredible. I had no idea.
Yes, under all that makeup and mask and everything. He's
obviously not playing the same character.
No. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, it really was a nice button to it, especially, since they pretty much recast everybody.
They should have.
Exactly.
I don't know what strings get carried on into the later movies, but we're not fans of Mel Gibson in this household.
That's a fair assessment. And as somebody who grew up in the era of Mel Gibson,
sure,
it was kind of hard to accept that he went so nanners. And then I guess no. Didn't go. Was always that way.
Yeah.
And did not show his true colors. But
as I'm sitting here with a Jewish Community Foundation of Southern Arizona pen in my hand.
That's completely fair.
But yeah, no, it's fascinating. But yeah, because when you suggested this movie, I love Fury Road. I understand that there are some things in it that aren't great. If it was truly a feminist movie, they could have let some of those women put on a shirt. They're free now. They don't have to continue dressing like that. But, whatever. But, largely the movie's pretty fucking great.
Yeah, from start to finish. It's a pretty solid film.
For lack of a better phrase, it is one hell of a ride.
And I would argue it is the best Mad Max movie. And I've been a fan of these movies for a long time.
Yeah.
And probably one of my favorite of that decade, 2010 to 2020.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Fury Road, such a good movie.
So, our goal is... So, the Mad Max, the original Mad Max is... they say the world has ended, but it's 1979 the world has ended, where, everything's fine. It's just occasionally some people don't obey rules.
Yeah, some of the signs are askew, and people go very fast on the highway.
And the police headquarters is just a bombed-out building, which, fine.
I was going to argue that's kind of where we are now anyway.
It's where we should be.
Ah, yeah.
That in this universe, they seem underfunded.
Yes.
In ours, they're overfunded.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
It is the problem.
One of the many problems. But, I feel like one of our big goals is going to be, how do we take how do we take the version of Mad Max that we love and make a prequel, kind of an original movie, that kind of seems like it flows more easily into that. Yeah,
that is definitely the challenge here. And I actually approached it as its own thing.
Okay, great.
As its own, all right, film, this is a not a gritty reboot, but maybe a gritty reboot. I don't know.
Certainly grittier in that there will probably be more sand.
Yeah, there will be certainly a lot more sand and a lot less bizarre Australian colorful characters, I guess.
I'm okay with that.
I don't know.
I mean, if we're going to be having an apocalypse, why not have an apocalypse in Australia?
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't mean the continent. I just meant, I guess some of them are from the sequel that I'm thinking of, like crazy outfits and
We'll throw a little bit in that too. So, but for people who haven't seen the original Mad Max, like me a couple weeks ago, what happens in this movie, Kevin? What is the story of the original Mad Max?
Okay, here's the story of the original Mad Max.
Max Rockatansky.
We have the best of the best. Max Rockatansky, the cop to end all cops. He is super cop in Australia. And they are just underfunded and doing the best to cling to whatever is left of society. And there are roving gangs of violent motorcyclists who just rape and pillage the land. And Max is the front line for this battle until he snaps and can't take it anymore and decides to retire.
Which is, so the version of, this is that weird version of Mel Gibson where his version of snapping is to retire and to choose to not be a violent asshole anymore.
Pretty much, yeah.
Got it. So that is what snapping is for Mel Gibson. Noted. Continue?
It is, yeah. It's going from insane, crazy guy to, you know what, I'm just going to be normal.
So what leads to Max snapping is, so the movie doesn't even start with Mad Max. It starts with a couple other cops just like voyeurologizing, like two people having sex on the side of the road. And then like some guy called the Knight Rider or something.
Yeah, the Knight Rider.
I
am the Knight Rider.
The Knight Rider steals the police's, the cop's second to last actual V8 and is like making a break for it. And like all these other cops are chasing him and he keeps making it through. Everyone keeps getting away. He like drives through a neighborhood even and almost hits a baby. We'd never hit a baby in this movie. And all the cops fail, and then all of a sudden, over the horizon comes Max Rockatansky, who plays chicken with the guy, but the guy blinks, and then the guy, like, runs into a pole or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, he, runs into a truck and explodes.
That's right. He kills the person in the truck, but he himself explodes, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Justice he and his girlfriend, excuse me.
Yes.
And so, like, Rockatansky didn't even do anything. But anyway, so yeah, he's a tough guy. But anyway, he meets up with his friend, the Goose. Mm-hmm. And the Goose ends, and they, like, are hanging out, but then, like, the crazy motorcyclists take over a town. A guy and his girlfriend flee the town. The motorcyclists, like, track down, take over that car. The boyfriend presumably, it is supposed and suggested by the movie that both the boyfriend and the girlfriend were raped.
Yes. And
the boyfriend makes a run for it. The girlfriend's chained to the car. And then the Goose, rescues the girl and arrests, like, the one motorcyclist that's left behind.
Yes.
But then, when the time comes for a trial, no one shows up to testify against the motorcyclist, including the girl. And the Goose loses it. He's like, no, you're a monster. You deserve to be in jail. Which is true. But he's handling it like a cop, which is violently.
Blowing up and screaming in an Australian accent.
And then the motorcyclist who escapes, Johnny the Boy... Mm-hmm. He's like, we know your face, the Goose. We'll find you. And then they do it, and then they kill him.
And he dies quite violently.
Mm-hmm. And that's what inspires Max to be like, you know what?
I quit.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need this anymore.
I'm just gonna go on vacation with my family for the most of the second act of the movie. Mm-hmm. 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 Which is literally, yeah, we're just gonna drive up the coast of Australia and stop here and get some ice cream and, maybe visit some family that I don't know. It's never explained who they were staying with.
Yeah, they're just staying with some people, and they call the Dark Man or something when they want to report something. I don't remember what that was.
I don't remember what that was either. But it was a little...
But yeah, Mad Max is either married or has a longtime partner named Jesse, and they have some sort of baby.
Some sort
of baby. They get a dog. They're living that idyllic lifestyle of just traveling and just being happy together, and it's going so great. They go to replace a tire, and Jesse says, hey, we're going to go grab some ice cream, me and the baby, and they step into a town that happens to have been taken over by these bad motorcyclists.
Who are, by the way, searching for Max.
Are they, though?
Yeah, because he was blamed. He was one of the people that was blamed for
Oh,
killing the Knight Rider.
I didn't pick up on that at all. All that I picked up on was that Jesse blows into town that happens to have the motorcyclists in it. They try to get her. She knees the lead guy in the dick,
Yes.
toe cutter, and then she and the baby make a break for it. She encourages Max to jump in the car, and they quote unquote escape. But then it turns out they were followed. I had no idea that they had any interest or cared about Max at all.
Yeah, I believe that I've seen it enough times to, I don't know, make me think otherwise, that they were going for him. But
well, I remember
you're right. It isn't expressly called out.
The reason they took over the first town was because that was where the Knight Rider's coffin was being delivered.
Exactly.
And then when they go to recover Johnny the boy, the toe cutter is being driven away as he's cradling the coffin containing the Knight Rider.
Or what's left of him.
Whatever, it doesn't
very
matter.
Tiny coffin.
So basically, the motorcycle gang tracks down Max and Jesse to this farm, and immediately after Jesse escapes these horrible, violent men, Max is trying to fix the car, and Jesse says, "I'm gonna go walk through the forest and chill on the beach for a little bit." For no reason. This incredible, close call of violence, and she decides, I'm gonna go be completely alone for a little bit, which made no sense. No. And the fact that Max was like, yeah, okay, go be completely alone for a little bit. I don't need to protect you. Whatever. And so she goes with the dog, but basically, as she's walking back, the motorcyclists are, taunting her and chasing her. They kill her dog, which is horrendous.
Yes.
They make it back, and finally, they make a break for it. Max again says, you go stay in the house where it's safe. And he runs off into the woods, again, leaving her alone. And he doesn't find them, but they find her. She and the old lady who were living there make a break for it in the car. The motorcyclists chase them down. The car breaks down because they clipped the gas line or something. And so they get out. And so she's running down the middle of the street like an idiot with the baby. And then the motorcyclists run her down. And then Max snaps and goes on a killing spree where he systematically kills everyone else in the motorcycle gang. End of movie.
Yeah. It's
in a brutally horrific way, to the point where, he actively tortures a couple of them.
He sure does. It's quite the revenge film. And
for the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know. That's the frustrating part, is he doesn't get mad until Act 3. Ish. But
Act 3 of Act 3.
Act 3 of Act 3, yeah. But it's essentially always been touted as a revenge film. But I mean, we have to remember, this was what's his name, George Miller's first movie, and the plot didn't really matter as much. It was more about set pieces for big chase sequences.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Meaning the plot is a set piece for chase sequences.
Right, I understand.
There were some spectacular chase sequences when they did happen.
Oh, for sure.
The middle of this movie is one of the most boring films I have ever seen, and when I was younger, I didn't mind it as much, you know what I mean, because it felt like I was watching this really cool exploitation movie, and it's gonna get good in a little bit, you know. It's not quite Death Wish, but it's
and not even quite Death Race.
No, that either. that actually has more racing in it.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah. Well,
all I really wanted was more
more madness. That's kind of what I wanted as well.
It genuinely, I'm still reeling from the fact that Toe Cutter and Immortan Joe are the same actor, and I just find that delightful.
Yes.
That's so good. We have to make this movie less sexist, because every single woman that's in this movie is just a sex object / trophy.
Yeah.
And it's not great. But I also feel like we gotta make the world more post-apocalyptic. And so I have a pitch for that, but obviously you're more familiar with this movie than I am. So what are your thoughts on what we need to do for our remake?
My thoughts were, I actually wanted to take it into more of a revenge thriller realm. I did the J.J. Abrams thing, where you're tasked to remake one thing, and then you watch a completely different thing.
Okay. So something I probably haven't seen.
No, you've probably seen it. I thought it would be cool to make this more like the film Drive.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen Drive?
No.
Oh, you should see Drive. It's a really good movie. But I feel like it's a strong revenge thriller, and is far more interesting than Mad Max.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of similar beats. You know, he's a tough guy, a very stoic, not a cop, but a mechanic. And he's like a stunt driver, and somebody kills his neighbor and kid, and he goes on a revenge kick. So
Fun.
yeah, great movie. It's actually a very, very good movie. I'm not doing it justice.
We do support Ryan Gosling in this house, so.
Well, there we go.
But yeah, I mean, it feels like something I should eventually watch.
Yeah, it's a strong movie.
Okay.
But I figured...
There's no reason why we can't do that. So basically my thought is that in terms of the world building of... This is supposed to be the first Mad Max movie, and it's supposed to be like, the world has just ended, kind of. Like, we're just barely post-apocalyptic. The movie starts with a couple years in the future.
Exactly.
So what I feel like we need to start with is the world, and I feel like the world needs to be bisected. In that I feel like people need to already be losing their minds and speaking in like the weird half sentences that we kind of get in Fury Road. But I feel like that's the kind of version of apocalypse we're getting, but it hasn't completely hit the rest of the population yet. So I feel like for some people they're living in the apocalypse, but for the rest of the people, let's say it's just, I mean, it doesn't even need to be bisected. It could just be like that's 10-15% of the population.
Sure.
But for like the remaining 85 to 90%, they're living in denial that that's really happening. It's just like, oh, those are just the crazies. It's not even that big a deal. So what I'm saying is that basically we need to have apocalypse deniers.
Yes.
And that's what makes up, because like you're going to have the crazy motorcycle gang that's living on the road and doing all these insane stuff, but then there are still people just chilling in cafes. And what I think we do as Max gets his revenge and like systematically tries to take out all these people who've been losing their minds and doing horrific, horrible things, Max himself gets infected with whatever the apocalypse thing that's going on is and becomes himself mad, but it's his own version of madness just like everyone else had.
Okay, so his own version of
of street fever.
Yes, street fever. Totally not COVID.
Right, but like, because it's not that kind of sickness, it's just like a sickness of the mind, and that's kind of what's...
Sure.
I mean, they asked the question, who killed the world, and the answer is going to be, and the answer has always been men.
Right.
So, it needs to be men. So, the thing that I was going to float, and I'm not 100% attached to, is we have the possibility, because we're starting from scratch, we have Officer Rockatansky, who is this best driver for the Aussie PD, who goes off and does this thing and angers the motorcyclists, and then the motorcyclists do something horrible in order to instigate this hunt for revenge. Theoretically, they can fridge Rockatansky's wife, or they can kill Rockatansky, the person who actually ticked them off. Mm-hmm. If they actually kill Rockatansky, then all of a sudden we get Mad Maxine, his wife. Mm-hmm. So it's still Mad Max, but like it's the flip of, oh, we have these horrible men who are breaking and destroying the world. If we're starting from scratch, there's no reason why Mad Max can't be the woman who was harmed by all this, taking revenge on all the horrible men and everything they've been doing to destroy the world.
Yeah, there's no reason why you wouldn't. So
it's the raid, but with a lady.
You're saying like she puts on his outfit and pretends to be that, or
I'm
just
not saying
goes
she
mad?
Pretends to be him. I'm just saying
her
version of. I mean, she can dress however she wants. Like she can steal his armor because it's police armor, and there's no reason. And like, there's no reason why we can't like have her steal the armor because it's effective. I mean, it's gonna be too big on her, but she can like strap it down and like she can Mad Max it up in order to make this police armor fit her because she's gonna have a different frame than her husband.
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if you're gonna like. That's the world that we live in of customizing what's left.
Right.
And, I have no...
and so, like, she can still be the driver in Drive, systematically taking out all these different iterations of horrific men, and just, like, going on an absolute buck-off kill spree, killing them all, but in doing so, basically takes out this section of it, but the madness is still spreading. She still goes mad, and she's still crazy, but, like, it's a different kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And also we see that it is continuing to affect more people, and the madness is spreading. It's not necessarily linked to just this motorcycle gang. You
could do that, but you do kind of lose the one message that I think I see in Mad Max.
Great.
Which is, he becomes a shell of a man and loses his humanity as everything is stripped away from him. It's almost like the reverse story of Job, if you remember that from the Bible.
I'm familiar with the story of Job.
Yes. that's kind of how I always looked at Mad Max, is like they took everything from him and now he's just a shell of a man kind of wandering a wasteland.
There's no reason why we can't take everything from a woman.
No,
she can.
That's not what I was saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking in terms of like the apocalypse madness.
I'm talking about the disease, sickness.
Okay, sure.
She can become a shell of a woman, but I just think that
that's fine. Okay.
The idea of this madness that makes everybody crazy,
then let's not do
that. We
that.
lose that kind of point.
Great.
I think.
Then I agree with you. Then please continue.
Well, what I was going to say is it can be something else, some other impetus for the end of the world. And I was kind of, I know it's taboo, but we flash back to the beginning of COVID where everybody was out for themselves and 50 things of toilet paper, fuck you all.
Oh, sure.
Where everybody's hoarding resources, which is kind of what's happening in the sequels if we're going to be leading up to that world.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've never, for those who haven't seen the Road Warrior is literally all about gasoline. It's guzzling. Yes, guzzling. But their whole encampment is a refinery making gasoline, and there are people trying to take over that refinery, and Max is the last line of defense. That's literally the plot of the Road Warrior. So if we're leading up to that, and in Mad Max Fury Road as well, there are different parts of, they had Bullet Town where they make all the ammo, and they had, Gas Town or whatever where they make all the gas. If we are heading towards that world where things are precious and commodities are hard to come by, then I think a good place to start is where we kind of were in March 2020, where nobody knows what the hell is going on. Everybody's getting whatever the hell they can. I remember being in a Target and walking around and some guy grabbing a 6-pack of Ensure. And he's like, I've never had this before, but, better to have it than not. That kind of
okay, I agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Here is how I would blend those two things of apocalypse is happening. Let's say climate apocalypse, whatever. We can have the stylized thing of someone marking how high the high tide is every day. You can see that the high tides themselves are receding.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Because the water goes away in Fury Road.
Oh yeah.
So instead of the oceans rising, it's the oceans are falling in a way of just oceans of sand.
Yes.
And so what we can do is we can have that as just stylistic world building, and we can have the poorest people are the ones who are Waterworld.
Yeah.
Where we have just this city that has all the resources floating on the water, and we have the poorest people outside just begging, just trying to get in, and all of the people inside who have things, even though this isn't even a big town, saying no.
That's also the fourth Night of the Living Dead, Land of the Dead, where everybody literally lives in a huge condo tower with all the riches and resources, and then everybody else is down with the rest of the Walking Dead, if you will.
Yes. So we do that, and literally, it a puddle drying out in the sun, it's slowly shrinking, but the people inside in the middle of the puddle don't realize that that's what's happening on the fringes. And they're still living like they have everything in the world and that everything's fine.
That, or they're the kind of people who just don't care.
Even better.
Mm-hmm.
This cop and his wife are the ones who are supposed to be protecting it and keeping those people safe. And we can even have Max lose his/her mind and start killing the people who are trying to come after the resources, and then realize that they don't have anything, and then starts going after the people who have the resources.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Because we realize that the reason that all of these people are clamoring for... you can even have... end of Act 1, inciting incident, either he or she is killed,
mm-hmm.
and then Act 2 is a series of revenge of taking them down, taking down these people who wronged them, figuring out what's going on. But the end of Act 2 is realizing that these people are only going after and going crazy and stealing these resources because they were actively being denied resources from the center of the town.
Right.
So the focus shifts even matter to oh my god, I've been killing the victims instead of the aggressor. Well, I mean, they're the aggressors, but I've been killing the victims instead of the actual people responsible.
Right, exactly. You realize you're putting the Band-Aid on cancer, essentially. You realize that I think the great turn at the end of Act 2 is her realizing, or he or her, however we decide to go,
mm-hmm.
realizing that you we were on the same side this whole time, and your actions that
I wouldn't say the same side.
Not the same side, but your actions that harmed me were a reaction to how we're all being harmed.
Yeah.
Is kind of where I was headed with that.
And, like, Act 3 is just a raid fighting their way up the ivory tower to take out the head person.
Sure.
And...
So, similar to Dread?
Similar to Dread. And you can even have the end of the movie being like, okay, we can redistribute the resource. That's it? That's all they have? And like, yeah, they've been living they've been living so well that they're out of resources too.
So it was all a facade?
It's all a facade, and the people here don't even realize that they're just as fucked as everyone else. But they're about to, and that's the end of the movie.
Little dose of reality for them at the end of the movie?
Well, I mean, the movie as it exists doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. But
and it's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
So, like, an apocalypse is going to apocalypse.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's a word, apocalypse.
So, like, so basically it's taking out the people who are symptoms of the disease but not the actual infection, then taking out the infection and then realizing even they don't have the thing to fix the problem. There is no cure.
It's too far gone.
It's too far gone. End of movie.
Yeah. And now it's just off wandering into the wasteland in a big-ass V8.
Well then, and then the presumed sequel would be figuring out exactly how... what happens and how does society restructure in the wake of all of this. I'll rephrase. Not society. Australia.
Well, sure, we can go with Australia, but I like society as a whole because it feels like society as a whole.
I'm sure the rest of us will be fine. None of us need Australia. It's only worth 2 points if you have the whole continent.
Sure. Depends on what game you're playing, though.
That's fair. Is it 3 points? Is it 2 points? Is it 3 points?
Depends on what game you're playing.
I'm talking about Risk.
You're talking about Risk. I think it's 3 points.
Okay, 3 points. It's only worth 3 points.
What's the other one that I was thinking of? Oh, man, I can't even think. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, Australia, 3 points. But at the same time, perfect spot for a base to spread out. I don't know. Anyway, Mad Max is a movie that we're talking about.
It is. What else do we need for the world building? Like, what are the... Because, like, it is Mad Max. And we need to, like, Mad Max the heck out of it in every way.
Sure.
Well, how do we stylize this world?
I feel like a big stylization point in this world should be similar to what the original is, but heightened, which is taking what already exists and, like, customizing it in weird ways to make it seem like more... not modern, but I don't know, maybe crazy. I don't know, but you know, the whole like, okay, this is a leather jacket, we're gonna put some shoulder pads with some spikes on it. Or, you know, everybody's kind of building their own apocalypse costume. Not costume, that's a bad wardrobe. I don't know, armor.
Sure,
armor is probably what I'm talking about.
Okay. So one of the things that annoyed the crap out of me when I was remaking Waterworld, and I was talking about it with Julia and Rick Ingham from Mad Max Minute. The reason we talked about Waterworld is because they were remaking Waterworld 1 minute at or they were discussing Waterworld H2O minutes at a time.
Ha.
But their bread and butter was Mad Max Minute. One of the things that really annoyed me when talking about Waterworld is just the waste of resources. And like the bad guys would just blow things up constantly, and it's just like, you are in an apocalypse. There is a finite amount of resources, and you're blowing stuff up. And like when Mr. Waterworld is eating the tomato plant, he's eating the entire thing, and I got actively upset when he cuts open the tomato and then eats the seeds. And it's like, no, my guy, do you not understand? You have to plant those to make more. And he's eating nothing. And like, I remember Julia, when I called that out, she was like, oh, that is a good point. And so for me, I feel like the middle of the puddle can be people who are just throwing water around. They still have fountains.
Sure.
Like, they're just wasting resources. But everyone on the outskirts, like, they have like, let's say they have a leather jacket and it tears, but there is no more leather. So they fix it with the only thing they have, which is like a bicycle knee pad.
Exactly.
And they add some spikes. And like, the everything gets Mad Maxed in that that's the only way they're able to like patch it and keep it going. It's like different patches and things fixed together.
Yeah, and that is absolutely what I meant in terms of using whatever is left.
Oh, for sure. And using everything. Like, you have something and it's not turned to dust in your hands. You make use of it the best you can. And that's how you get your crazy Mad Max contraptions, because that is just remnants of just the scraps that are left to our horrific Australian people who aren't even real people.
Yes. Well,
I'm so sorry, Australians. I'll stop doing this bit.
They aren't. They're prisoners of England.
Well, sure. I mean, aren't we all?
Aren't we all? We are.
Yeah. But yeah, so like something like that to like justify it. And like you can even see that can even be an indicator of how on the outskirts and how fringe someone is by how patched and Mad Maxed they've become.
And how insane. Yeah, it's a marker of how insane they have become.
And you can even say that like they're losing their minds, and so they're having to patch their minds together with little bits of whatever is left. But that's separate because we want it to be it's from without instead of from within.
Yes.
With the exception of Toe Cutter or whoever's in charge of the bad guys, where for whatever reason they're like the guy on the ship in Waterworld, where it's like, no, I deserve to be among the rich people because I too live like them.
Right.
And like this is the one person who's still different kind of crazy, in that like they're intentionally wasting things because that's what they think the rich people do.
Sure. And that's very indicative of it's almost a post-apocalyptic trope. Those kind of characters. I completely, I agree with that, almost to a point where he believes maybe he is working his way up into being in that.
Oh,
building,
yeah, for sure.
Or being in that status by essentially being a pirate.
Well, eventually, so like if he gets to be a pirate and he amasses enough things, then he also gets accepted into the Green Place.
Exactly. The Green Place?
That's what it is in Fury Road. Furiosa and the wives are making a run because they're going to escape and go to the Green Place.
Correct.
And then it turns out that the horrific swamp that they drove through is what's left of the Green Place.
Yes, I remember that now. It's been a minute since I've seen that one.
I saw the movie last month.
Oh, there you go.
We watched it for my movie club. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's so much fun.
Again, probably one of the best from Mad Max.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I completely agree with that, and I feel like not so much that the Toe Cutter is like in cahoots with these guys, but I feel like he really thinks that he
aspires to be them.
Yes,
and everything he does is in his mind an audition to join them.
Exactly, and I feel like he feels that he's on his way up that ladder to get there.
And he will step on and over anyone he can in order to make it up that ladder.
Yeah.
To the point where we can even have the husband and wife like encounter him at first, and then he lets them go because he sees them as because just based on the way they're dressed, he sees them as, we can even use terminology of from Fury Road of look at these full lives. I'm surrounded by all these half lives, and I don't give a shit about them, but you're clearly full lives. Same to same. Game recognizes game. I'll let you be on your way. And then drives away. And then they realize just how decimated everything is around them.
Yeah. I absolutely could be. And did we do away with the police thing? Because one of the things that I could...
Tell me. What did we miss?
Just going back, now that we've kind of identified the world, in his or her storyline, the part about being a cop could absolutely come full circle in that, like, realizing that you're working for the man kind of way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works
with
what we've got.
No, it absolutely does, because we can take something from that as well. So the name of the head of the police department is named Fifi.
Yes.
Big ol' mustachioed man.
Yeah. And
there's a moment when Max goes to quit, he goes to confront Fifi, and Fifi is shirtless, mustachioed man watering his plants.
As one does.
Which immediately made me think of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, but that's a whole separate conversation for another time. I love that movie. But it's an amazing Miyazaki movie.
Yeah, it's great.
But, like, I had this notion of Fifi is taking all this time and using all these resources to water plants that are useless.
Yeah.
Like, you can even, like, it's... like an episode of how like deep this version of The Rock goes. Like Fifi's like we could literally, the previous scene could be them denying water to people who need it, and then in the following scene Fifi can be watering plants that don't flower, don't do anything. They just look nice. Him watering his lawn.
I go a step further in saying that they make him feel like things are normal.
Yes.
and so therefore he needs that water. Those people do not.
There you go.
This is keeping my sanity.
Mm-hmm. They're already insane.
Yeah.
They're gone. But this is for me, and this helps me.
And I'm in charge of the damn police. So
yeah. Well, I think the aspect of the police is important because when Max and or Maxine is fighting their way back up to the top in Act 3, they're going to have to fight through their old unit and comrades, and they're going to have to stop or break Fifi in some way.
Yeah. I feel like he's not quite the last line of defense, but certainly the boss before the final boss, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's junior final boss?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the terminology. I think it's normally called the mini boss.
The mini boss.
Yeah.
Which is even funnier if he's big.
Brr. Well, often the mini bosses are big, but, and they're done.
Right. Well, his name is Fifi. So.
His name is Fifi. But yeah, because I do think the aspect of, like, being one of the enforcers, I'm the last line of defense against a broken world, and then, no, you're not.
Yeah, I mean, but that is a very egotistical cop thing.
Yeah.
Just in and of itself, is they all have that kind of mentality of, I am Superman, I am the last line of defense, I am here to save, and even though you make things way worse, it's all an ego trip.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's something we can certainly factor in psychologically to these cops, to where they all think they're here. I think his big line is, nobody believes in heroes anymore.
Yeah, that is his line.
So we can really lean into that and have, like, we are the last heroes of the world. Mm-hmm. We're special. We're, that kind of like almost cult leader, but police mentality that certainly does not exist today at all.
Sure, no, there's no chance that that's real. Yeah, good. I agree. Cool. What else do we need for plot and world of our movie?
Well,
I guess we need to decide if it's going to be Max or Maxine. But
that's a big one. But that's plot-wise, I would like to stick to the revenge thriller.
I think that's important.
Aspect of
I think Act 2 and Act 3 are both all revenge.
Right.
Act 2 is revenge against the outside, and then Act 3 is revenge against the inside.
And the end of could even be revenge against the whole world if we wanted to blow it all down. What's left, rather.
Well, because I think that would theoretically be the sequel.
Is it the sequel, or is the sequel figuring out what comes next now that we've blown it all apart?
Well, no, because I think we get to the center and we realize that this society is crumbling, and the people who are in the middle don't realize that they're also as fucked as everyone else.
Right.
But I feel like then it can be realizing on a grander scale of okay, because I mean, theoretically in my head it's still placed in Australia.
Sure, we can.
And as the oceans are receding, you can even show on a larger scale, literally you can have the sequel be Australia taking revenge against people like Great Britain and the United States who have managed to hoard even a global amount of resources.
Oh yeah.
And then it's Max coming over to take revenge on the United States.
Yeah. I'm all in for that. That would be very, very, very timely. Hitting all the big ports and all the big, and of course you can drive because the Pacific Ocean,
the ocean's gone,
completely gone.
So you have to drive across you have to road trip across the ocean for Australia to take revenge against the United States. Well, that's even how you open the sequel of just it's just someone in San Diego just looking out over the desert being well, according to the clock, this is when high tide is. Cool.
Yay.
And then all of a sudden, just in the distance, just coming over the hill is just a car. And they're like, is that water? Is it coming back? But it's a car. And then it's another car. And it's a fleet of cars. So it is a wave, but it's a wave of cars coming to take down San Diego. Boom! Mad Max 2.
I do.
Mad Max 2, Rising Tide.
There you go.
Yes!
I would love to see people in the beach town just still acting like it's a beach town.
Yeah.
Just umbrellas and, lawn chairs, tanning.
Yeah.
And just
we would have to do that.
Broken mirrors instead of the actual tanning thing,
Well, and they have, they've taken a plastic bowl and they've torn apart like a teddy bear and they've taped brown fur around the bowl to trick their brain into thinking it's a coconut. And the nice thing, though, is they're this might not be a real coconut, but I've still got my plastic straw. And and then
Every port town has its own personalities.
Yeah, very much so. You go to Venice and it's Muscle Beach, but all of the training equipment is metal, so it's burning hot, and it's all about muscles. But you also get to see just like the calluses on their hands because they've burned and scabbed over their hands, so they can't feel the burning hot metal anymore.
I no longer feel pain.
I no longer feel pain in my hands.
So it helps me to crush all invaders.
Yeah, so like literally, yes, absolutely. All right, but that's a sequel.
Yeah.
That's for another time.
That's a sequel I want to see. So
I mean, we know the sequel's going to be better than the original because the original we have to like do setup and build the world. Sequel, the world's already broken, and now we just get to just like whole hog. Oh man, what happens when Australia decides to take revenge against the United States? It's everything we've ever wanted.
It really is.
That's hilarious.
By vehicle.
By vehicle. Good.
All right. Now back to our original here.
Well, so let's talk about casting. Let's cast our Max and our Jesse / let's cast our Rocket Tansy and and either Jesse or Maxine, depending on what we do, and then we'll see how we feel once we've got those two.
Okay.
So who did you have for your Mad Max?
Well, for my Mad Max, again, I approached this as if we were going to make a revenge thriller instead of a post-apocalyptic revenge thriller.
Oh, so your original pitch wasn't going to be apocalyptic at all.
I mean, at the end of the world. Like I said, kind of, if you will, March 2020, where things are just falling apart and continue to fall apart, but they haven't completely fallen apart.
Like Twitter.
Yeah. Like, still exists for some reason, but...
Despite all odds.
Yeah. So for my Max, I thought it would be good casting to have a younger action star who is capable of executing, key word there, executing.
Absolutely.
A revenge thriller. And I went with John Boyega.
I mean,
to play Max.
You are not the first person I've heard pitch specifically that actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were like, oh, well, obviously you have to make Mad Max John Boyega. And I'm like,
huh.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, I mean, he's great.
Yeah,
so.
I specifically went another way and didn't cast John Boyega, but John Boyega is probably the right choice.
Yeah.
Like literally he's probably the right choice.
Right.
Regardless of what we do.
I had never heard that before. That was just one that I was like,
I've only talked to two people, you and this other person, and you both were like, it's John Boyega, and I'm like, okay.
Here we go.
That's dope. So I went with someone who isn't necessarily a leading man in his own right, because in my head I'm like, well, there is still the possibility we're going to kill this guy. We're going to fridge this guy to motivate Maxine. Mm-hmm. And I wanted someone who looks tough and just like is a tough guy, but like we don't know that much about him, because I still think of Mad Max as kind of being the strong silent type. Like he doesn't say a whole lot.
No, very stoic.
I did not cast an Australian for this, but...
Which is funny, which is stoic character that got dubbed for... Anyway.
Yeah. So I've seen this actor in Bullet Train. He's not in the movie very long, because he gets killed real quick. But he's also in Fast 9. He's a rapper and a singer. And on IMDb, he is credited, and his name is Bad Bunny.
Oh, Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And if you don't believe that Bad Bunny has Mad Max vibes, he has a music video called Where She Goes, which is him driving a convertible Rolls Royce in, like, sand dunes to a Burning Man style rave.
Fantastic.
And it was extremely Mad Max.
I'm sure.
And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah,
fair.
Perfect.
So
sure.
I think we'll still end up going with John Boyega regardless, but that I was like, these vibes are too good.
No, yeah, totally.
But yeah. So then on the other side of it, we have Jesse / Maxine, depending on how we want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I wanted someone who we all know is tough, who everyone is just like, oh yeah, this one could kick everyone's butts, and is like tough but also soft, because we want to start T1 Sarah Connor in Terminator.
Yes.
But then we potentially want to end T2 Sarah Connor.
Yes.
And so I went with Florence Pugh.
Oh, okay, that's a good.
Like, we've seen her completely head shaved, going nuts, and we've like, but she also does like the Hawkeye, Midsummer, Little Women, like charisma person.
Sure. She absolutely has that, and I mean, her latest turn in Oppenheimer is pretty powerful too.
I believe you. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's great. You should.
I'm good. It's 3 hours long. That's too long. I'm not gonna watch a 3-hour movie without being able to pause in the middle and just like stretch.
That's fair. I mean, I had to do that in this, and this is only an hour and a half.
I mean, to be fair, I also paused this movie in the middle and took a break.
It felt like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not. It's 88 minutes.
I know.
And
I know. And that's the thing, is like, it is clearly a 70s movie where it's, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens.
Yeah, 88 minutes.
Yep. Oh boy, of the Australian outback.
Yep. Who did you have for Jesse?
So for Jesse, I went with somebody who I figured would be a good match with John Boyega, but also would be tough as well, because I figured if we went in this direction, she would still have to like fight a little bit, like not going down without a fight.
Sure.
So I went with Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Zoe Kravitz, who is in Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I forgot about that when I wrote it down, but saying it out loud, yes. So, well.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, obviously, Toe Cutter is also Immortan Joe.
Hey, it could be a nice reference.
It could be.
Like, get George Miller on the phone.
I mean, George Miller loves references.
He sure does. He also loves casting the same people in different roles.
Yeah. That said, I think we should do John Boyega and Florence Pugh.
Okay, I'm on for that.
Like that feels like the move.
I agree with you.
Which brings us to Toe Cutter. I went first for our female lead. Who did you have for Toe Cutter?
So I'm on the fence. I have two actors.
Oh, that said, if we're going to be having it be like Max and not Maxine taking everyone down, I feel like we can kill the goose, but I don't think we should fridge the wife.
Okay.
Because
wait.
we're past that as a society.
Sure.
And I feel like taking down the bad guys is like drinking the Kool-Aid of this inner society, and then it's realizing the inner society was manipulating and breaking him, and that's why he turns around and goes back. I feel like if we're having Mad Maxine, then we can kill Rockatansky.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I lost you for a second there, but yes, I'm all on board for that.
But because it sounds like the way we built this movie, it's not necessarily the Mad Maxine version of like taking revenge on the men that broke the world. It's just the society as a whole.
Yes.
Like the elite versus the wealthy versus the common, the 1% versus the 99%. And it sounds like that's the movie we built, in which case it doesn't necessarily make as much sense for us to do the gender flip, but I don't think we should kill Jesse.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. So that said, do we want to head in that direction? Because I do feel like the movie that we built, John Boyega as Max, would be
I agree.
a strong
So that because of that, and because the nature of the movie we built isn't the feminist revenge fantasy, it is societal revenge fantasy.
Right.
I think John Boyega is I think should be Max as opposed to just Officer Rockatansky.
Right.
And Jesse should be Jesse instead of Maxine.
I agree, but I feel like there should probably be either she joins him or she goes off in hiding, and the very end could be that they are both now very broken shells.
Oh, they need to both be broken shells. Like, I if anything, though, I feel like there could be a thing of... So Act 2 will be all Max taking out the Toe Cutters gang and all that, and learning about just how fucked up society really is. And Act 3, you can even start with Max, like, he's worried about his wife because they threatened his wife, kidnaps his own wife and is bringing her with him as he goes and takes out things. But as he's going and, like, fighting his way up society, she's learning about how fucked up society is too, and then by the time you get halfway through Act 3 and you're halfway up the tower, now all of a sudden she's fighting with him.
Yeah.
And so, because, like, when they come back, she hasn't been exposed to how messed up everything is, but as he's fighting his way back up, she's also kind of seeing, like, oh my god, this is messed up. So she's learning as well, and so by the time they finally get to the top floor, they're fighting together, and then they both realize that society's completely... is dead,
gone,
and they don't know that yet,
and there's no going back.
Yes,
that should be a strong ending.
Yeah, so that's my pitch for cool. how we'll work around that. How we'll work around the fact that fridging is a problem in Hollywood.
Yes,
and we should not fridge someone just to motivate our male lead.
No, we shouldn't. But then again, this movie was what, 78, 79?
Yeah. We know that happened in the movie, and it's like 79. Like, this is one of the things that's like this movie exists before
Fridging.
even the comic that the term fridging comes from was written.
Exactly.
And so, not that that's an excuse for this movie. It's still messed up. But, like, we shouldn't do the same thing.
No, I agree with that completely and totally.
So, you know, we'll have him kidnap his wife. It's fine.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Continue. Toe Cutter.
Toe Cutter. So Toe Cutter, I had two actors in mind, and I actually am going to select one now because now that we've, like, further defined the world.
Yeah.
I went with somebody who I feel like this villain needed to be a name, and he needed to be somebody who can play psychopathic, and especially now that we have him kind of this righteous character, I feel like Vincent D'Onofrio is a good choice for Toe Cutter, who can just turn on a dime on you. Because that's what Toe Cutter does. He turns on a dime.
Toe Cutter is secret crazy and, like, can come off charming, and he's just a cool guy, and we're just having conversation, knife in the neck.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, you're fading to black.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then you have this weird bug-eyed scene when he gets hit by a truck.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's bizarre.
But yeah. Okay. Good pull. Vincent D'Onofrio is also a really good idea. I went... Same kind of thing where it's like someone who could turn on a dime and be charming. Like, they are themselves very charming. He's also a very large man. But, like, can be very charming, and you can see him trying to take over and, like, conquer the world because he wants to be where the people are. He wants to see him dancing. You know, walking around on, what do you call them? Feet. I haven't cast him at all this season, but it is distinctly possible that I cast him in whatever movie you and I did last. And that's Winston Duke.
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, yeah? Winston Duke is the soft antagonist in Black Panther.
Okay.
He's the leader of the Jabari tribe.
Sure.
And I know him from 9 Days as well, where he, like, plays a dude in glasses and, like, it's Shakespearean and all this stuff. And he's an incredible actor. But you've seen him in Black Panther. He's a large, intimidating man.
Yes.
But you can also, like, especially seeing him as an opposite of John Boyega. We're not so different, you and I. Like, one of those. But, like, you could see him being an Australian guy, just doing Australian things, just trying to be all cool and stuff.
Man of the people.
Yeah. But yeah, either one of those two guys could work, though. Vincent D'Onofrio is a real good pull. I guess it depends on how active we want our lead to be. Because Winston Duke can do fight choreography. I don't know if we can have Vincent D'Onofrio doing it now.
Well, if we choreograph it in the way they did with him as the Kingpin in Daredevil.
It's true.
That was, like, shocking.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, you know, and again, it comes out of left field. And I think that's how you play the card with Vincent D'Onofrio is, you know.
Vincent D'Onofrio is probably the right move. All right, fine. You get Vincent D'Onofrio. And then I have Johnny the Boy. I wanted someone who's just a little bit crazy, just a little bit off, just a little bit like, he's going to do something. We don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be weird. I don't know what's going to happen. What's he going to do? What's happening? Oh my God, what is this guy? And that's kind of the character he plays in Charlie's Angels, the new iteration of Charlie's Angels. That's not really the character he is in Palm Springs, and it's definitely not the character he is in Crazy Rich Asians. But it's an actor named Chris Pang.
Okay.
Where he's a very handsome man, but you can tell that he's cracked a little bit.
I see.
And that's the kind of character he can play, and he's very good at it.
Interesting.
So that's who I had for Johnny the Boy.
That's probably a better pull than what I had.
Who did you have?
For Johnny the Boy, I went with somebody who recently had a turn as an insane, subservient person to a cult-like leader. I went with Nicholas Hoult.
Okay.
Because of his work in Ranfield.
Fair. Yeah.
And he can hold his own in a fight. And also,
Nicholas Hoult, who was in Fury Road.
Oh, he was in Fury Road?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
He's the war boy.
Oh, is he? Really?
Yeah, he's the one who's completely shaved, who's like the...
Dude, I don't know casting for that movie. I watched it. I know Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy's blood is being drained out of him and pumped into Nick Hoult.
I didn't know that was Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, I know, right? You don't know it's Nicholas Hoult until you don't know it's Nicholas Hoult until you get really to the end, and he's just like, witness me, and you're just like, oh fuck, that's Nicholas Hoult, and he's dead.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And now I can remember seeing his name in the credits too. Actually. So
Chris Pang it is?
Yeah, Chris Pang it is. This was thought out really well, just so you know.
I'm not mad at it. I think this is fun.
It was thought out really, really well.
None of your choices are bad.
With no thought to... I was just working like George Miller, man.
Yeah.
Just recasting people.
Just vibing, just experiencing things. You were working like George Miller. taking some of the pieces you already had and repurposing them for something else.
Yes.
You were truly Mad Maxing it.
I was.
So, you probably don't have this, but there was that weird blonde second-in-command guy who I couldn't even find the name of on IMDb.
I do. It's Clunk.
The second-in-command is named Clunk.
Clunk.
What a terrible name.
Ratchet and Clank, but past tense.
He was... that.
It was Clunk. I had to do some digging, too.
Yeah. So, I went first for the last one. I'm so sorry. You have that. Please tell me who you have.
That's okay. I mean, mine, I felt like we could build a character out of this because it's kind of a non-character. Uh-huh. Really. I mean, so he just kind of bosses people around. That's really his only purpose. So I thought like a good enforcer who plays a good enforcer in a realm like this, right? A good, second in command who can really kick ass, and I went with an actress named Ming-Na Wen.
I mean, Ming-Na Wen's dope. Everyone loves Ming-Na Wen.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, Ming-Na Wen is excellent.
Yes,
she is the trifecta of Marvel, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney.
Correct. She really is.
Ming-Na Wen is excellent.
Yeah,
I love Ming-Na Wen, and I like that we both gender swapped this character.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Good.
I specifically was like, you know what? We need to make sure there's some Australian representation in Mad Max. And I want someone who is tough and intimidating, and I don't really need them to be able to speak all that much. I just want them to be a strong second in command who can intimidate everyone else. Just as much, if not more so, than our toe cutter. Because it's like, oh, if this crazy person is answering to toe cutter, then I need, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you Google this person. I sent a text to my friend Cam Evans, and I said, I need someone who, for a villainous role, and I'm looking for an Australian professional wrestler for a Mad Max remake. And within seconds, he responded with Rhea Ripley. R-H-E-A Ripley. R-I-P-L-E-Y.
Well, that is, yes.
And as soon as I saw the picture, I was like, well done. This Australian professional wrestler is absolutely the correct choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, she's already got the costume and everything.
I know, right? As soon as I saw the pictures, I was like, I don't know how you did this so quickly and so perfectly, but apparently exactly the correct person exists.
Yeah, she can bring her own wardrobe.
Yeah.
She's perfect.
So, Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley.
She's gonna tear people apart. And so the only other two roles I have are Jim Goose and Fifi. Did you have anyone beyond that?
I did. I cast the Knight Rider.
Oh, that makes sense. So let's do Jim Goose, let's do Knight Rider, and then let's do Fifi.
Sure.
So my Jim Goose, I want someone who can play crazy. I cast a big bearded crazy man who's just he's really nice guy. Because I first saw him in Taskmaster. He's extremely funny. He's very charming and is just supremely confident. But he's also in Our Flag Means Death. And he's great, and he's very funny, and he's very charming. But in a goofy kind of way. Mm-hmm. You might end up needing to Google this guy too. His name is Guz Khan. Guz is spelled G-U-Z, and then Khan is K-H-A-N.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in other things too. I don't know what they are. I've only seen him in these two things. He's in something called Digman, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with his
oeuvre.
With his resume.
Yeah, but I thought he'd be fun, and I want someone who can play overconfident, and this is a guy who just, as a person, is overconfident.
Sure.
And so I thought that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But who did you have for Jim Goose?
I actually went with a peer who was, first off, my instinct, because I caught this for the first time, I've seen this movie probably 100 times, watched it with subtitles last night for the first time ever, and caught that the goose's name is actually Gosling. They call him Officer Gosling.
Because so his name is Gosling, but they call him the Goose.
Uh-huh.
So you cast Ryan Gosling.
For a second, I thought it would be funny to mention that.
That is very funny. Is that actually who you cast for the role, though?
No, it's not. I actually, I went with somebody who is also equally charming and cocky and has history with John Boyega. I went with Oscar Isaac.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fair.
They do have great chemistry.
They do.
Chemistry together.
Oh, for sure.
And if they're supposed to be equals/partners in this crazy cop world, I figured they'd be pretty good together.
Oh, yeah. So. Oscar Isaac's a good pull. And, his Star Wars iteration is supremely confident, but then his Moon Knight iteration is the opposite of confidence.
Yes.
So, he can do both. I don't know. That's tough. I feel like I want to push us to Guzcon, but let's see what we do with Fifi, and obviously you're getting Knight Rider. But tell us who you have for Knight Rider.
Knight Rider is just insane. He's
Correct.
an insane character. That's all we see.
So Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. Good guess. No, for this fuel-injected suicide machine, I figured we needed somebody who I try to shoehorn into every movie.
Okay.
I went with Nicolas Cage.
Great. That makes sense. I can't say no.
My pal Nick, who's just amazing in everything he's in.
And we gotta fully Mad Max him the heck out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like, all right, here's the keys, Nick.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. Well, it's also something where it's like, if it were me, I would have that be a surprise, and I wouldn't have him in any of the trailers. And then you start watching this movie, and you have Nick Cage going full Nick Cage driving a car, and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, Mad Max crests the horizon, and it's just like, oh my god, and that's what takes out Nick Cage, and you're just like, what is happening in this movie?
It sets the bar for the insanity pretty high.
It really does. And especially because, like, then the rest of the movie you can have Toe Cutter being like, Knight Riders who we should all aspire to be.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
In this world, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. Nick Cage. For Fifi, I was like, you know what? We need someone who is defined by his mustache. And there are few people as defined by their mustache as Nick Offerman.
That is very true. And also probably looks pretty good shirtless with an ascot wrapped around his neck.
Probably. I'm sure that photo exists somewhere.
So I'm sure he's got to have a big old steak in front of him. I am not opposed to Nick Offerman at all, especially
but who do you have?
With this version of the movie. I cast somebody actually more into being a mentor to Max.
Okay.
As we were going to, or the iteration that I had pitched was be more of a revenge thriller, which we've moved away from a little bit.
We're still doing revenge.
We are, but in terms of it just being that like death wish, straightforward revenge thriller.
Got it. Okay.
There's somebody who is kind of the mentor character. I figured
character / manipulator.
Yeah, that too. Who eventually at the end winds up being the guy who set the whole thing off, right?
Right.
So I actually went with Ving Rhames.
I don't know. Do I know who Ving Rhames is?
You know who Ving Rhames is. Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But can he grow a mustache?
I'm sure he can. And again, Nick Offerman's probably the right choice for this.
I looked him up on IMDb, and then I looked him up on Google to find out how old he is. He's 64. And the image that came up when I Googled him is just Ving Rhames, mustache.
Yeah.
So, here's what we're going to do.
I guess he had a good one in Pulp Fiction, actually. Oh, no, wait. That was just the soul patch. My bad.
We're going with Ving Rhames.
Okay.
But that means I'm taking Guzcon.
Oh, I had no qualms with that.
I know, but we're doing it.
Oh.
But that's our cast. So then we have our writer and our director. I have a separate writer and director. Do you separate or a hyphenate?
I have a separate writer and a separate director.
Okay. I believe I went first for Fifi. So who did you have for your writer?
For my writer, I actually, like I said, was headed more towards the kind of straightforward revenge thriller. So I looked to the team who did Drive, and my writer is Hossein Amini, who adapted the novel Drive into the Ryan Gosling movie.
Cool. I don't know this name.
He's done a lot of. I think he's won a couple Oscars for best screen adaptation.
Possibly. He also did Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yes.
So he knows how to do like campy action too. This might be the better choice actually. I went with the writer. He wrote he wrote the Ryan Reynolds movie Waiting, and he also wrote that movie Tag. This writer is named Rob McKittrick.
Oh, I know his name. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Hossein Amini is probably the better choice.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about my director.
Sure.
I went with a female director because I wanted it to be not as male gazy. And so this is a director who did the Charlize Theron, from Fury Road. She directed the Charlize Theron movie The Old Guard. She also directed Love and Basketball, and recently she did The Woman King. This director is named Gina Bryce Blythewood.
I am familiar with her work, and quite frankly, yeah, I mean, The Woman King alone probably makes her the right choice.
Yeah.
Like, that's a solid choice for a director there.
But who did you have?
Again, I went with the team from Drive.
So just the full team.
For director, I had Nicholas Winding Refn as the director, who has also done other action pictures and thrillers. Neon Demon is another one of his. There's a few more that do not leap to the top of my mind, but
he's done Circus Maximus, Neon Demon. He did the He got a special thanks in Demolisher. He has a special thanks in a lot of stuff. He also was a writer-director for something called Copenhagen Cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, that alone.
Yeah. I think we should do Hossein Amini writing and Gina Prince Blythewood directing.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think she's the right choice, just based on the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying Blythewood. Bythewood. There is no L. Gina Prince Bythewood.
Bythewood. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Okay, well, that is our cast. So, Mad Max... so, this was just Mad Max. There was no tagline.
Right.
So, this is just Mad Max.
This is just Mad Max, yeah.
Mad Max. On the Edge.
That's part 3.
Yeah. So, we have Mad Max Rising Tide, and then Mad Max on the Edge is just a picture of Mad Max relaxing on the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Oh, I was going to say on the edge of the world.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Good. Anyway, Max will be played by John Boyega. Jesse will be Florence Pugh. Toe Cutter will be Vincent D'Onofrio. Johnny the Boy will be Chris Pang. What was the name of the second in command?
Clunk.
Clunk will be Rhea Ripley. Jim Goose will be Guz Khan. Knight Rider will be Nick Cage. Fifi will be Ving Rhames. All of this will be written by Hossein Amini and then directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. That is Mad Max.
And
Kevin, you gonna go see this movie?
Oh, I'm gonna see this movie.
Yeah.
This is a movie that I want to see. Yeah.
This movie's gonna have your name all over it.
Quite literally.
Yes. Good. We did it.
Fantastic.
We maxed the mad. We madded to the max.
We sure did. The one thing I do want to mention, though, I think we need the car. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's such a big part of this.
You're right.
I think we should have the car.
You know cars so much better than I do. In that you know cars. Period. What car? What's the car?
I honestly think it would be cool to have the original one. It was
that absolutely I agree with.
Yeah, for those listening playing the home game, it was an Australian version of a 1973 Ford Falcon. The American version is a mom and pop car. The Australian version, however, was quite the hot rod.
Well, it's a V8.
It's a V8 with a blower.
Should have had a V8.
Should have had a V8, mate.
And so that's the car in the first 3 and is the car he's driving in Fury Road that gets taken by the bad guys, right?
Yes. So, and then funny, like if we want to talk about the whole Mad Max series as a whole, like that car gets wrecked like 6 times. I think he blows it up in Road Warrior. And then somehow it comes back in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I don't know if it's like just a frame or what. And then we see it again in Fury Road and it's immediately like taken out.
Yeah. Well, but then that's what they're driving.
It is the same car.
It is his car. Yeah. Okay, cool. Car. All right, great. So the car will be an Australian 1973 Ford Falcon.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
I feel like in this instance, because it's, the V8s in the original, I feel like this could be like, because we've moved so far away from what those muscle cars were back in the day, I feel like this could be like the vintage cop car, like on display in a museum or something.
And then Max just like busts through the display and drives it out to go take revenge.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think we have a movie.
I think we do, and it's a movie that I want to see.
Yeah, so we've reached the end of the podcast. Kevin, thank you so much for once again being an incredible guest and encouraging me to watch a movie, and I will probably now have to watch the next 2.
Yeah, they're fun.
I'm not expecting them to be good.
They're movies.
All right, then I won't watch them. It's fine.
Actually, The Road Warrior is a pretty solid movie.
Okay.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I mean, look,
they go full Mad Max though.
Yeah, no, they
really.
don't.
No, I mean,
the first act is great, and then it's kind of he's like hanging out in the forest, what's left of the forest with some kids that are wild. I don't know.
All right,
the
fine.
movie's weird.
Okay,
anyway.
I won't watch it then. That's fine. I got plenty of other stuff to watch. But more importantly, Kevin, thank you for being my guest on Ideal Remake. for people listening, what would you like them to do to follow you or promote things that you want them to check out, and then talk about social medias?
I unfortunately don't have anything to promote at the moment. I have a couple of movies that I scored that are pending on being in film festivals, but we haven't heard back yet.
Cool, that's still exciting though.
But you can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Mosteller Music, and when we hear back, I will announce it there. And other than that, you can follow me there. And I have my website, kevinmostellermusic.com. If you are a filmmaker or producer or a music supervisor in need of somebody to write custom music for you, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to do it for you.
Great. Cool. If you're interested in following me, I am on Instagram at Ideal Remake, IDEALREMAKE. And probably as of the time this episode goes up, if you are so inclined to follow me on Blue Sky, I am at SAMGASCH at Sam Gasch on Blue Sky. But most importantly, if you're interested in getting in touch with me and the podcast in general, you can reach out by going into the show notes and joining the Dueling Genre Discord. It's great. It's a wonderful community. And all podcasts, myself included, would really benefit from you taking the time, going on Apple Podcasts, and rating us 5 stars. It's a wonderful thing. That's how we feed the algorithm, and we all know the algorithm needs to be fed. So, that is Mad Max. Kevin, we will end this episode the same way we end every episode. What is your favorite quote from the movie Mad Max?
I'm the Knight Rider, a fuel-injected suicide machine.